from committees, Prime Minister's questions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can the Prime Minister indicate who is in charge of the Trinidad and Tobago missions in London, Ottawa, New York, the United Nations, Costa Rica, and in what capacity are they acting?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The embassy in San Jose, Costa Rica. The person in charge there is Mrs. Candice Shade, acting Foreign Service Officer 4, position acting as Charge d'Affaires. High Commission London, Mr. Tedwin Herbert, Foreign Service Officer 5, acting High Commissioner. High Commission Ottawa, Mrs. Vanessa Ramrup, acting Foreign Service Officer 3, acting High Commissioner. Permanent mission to United Nations, New York, His Excellency Eden Charles, Ambassador, acting as Charge d'Affaires. And may I take the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, we opened in last week 2 new missions. The acquisition of property in Jamaica, Kingston, and that is headed by Reverend Dr. Ivor Gludon. And we opened for the first time in our history a mission in Panama, which is headed by Mr. Gerald Green as acting Charge d'Affaires.
Leader of the Opposition.
Is the Prime Minister satisfied that with respect to the missions in London, Ottawa, New York, the UN and Costa Rica, that these missions are properly staffed and are operating at optimal capacity?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
The answer to that question is yes, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Consequently, am I to understand, is the Prime Minister telling this House that the government has no intention to further improve by making substantive appointments to those positions, and if so, when?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
My answer to the question previously was that yes, Prime Minister, the question then coming to me was whether I am saying that we will not make appointments. We will make those appointments in due course.
If it is the Prime Minister's position, as stated, that the missions are acting optimally, are you expecting any improvement with respect to the appointments of substantive office holders as ambassadors and High Commissioner?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
I am always sure, Mr. Speaker, there is room for improvement in everything that we do. And yes, to your question, the answer is yes.
Can the Prime Minister confirm that no aspect of public interest has been harmed by the protracted absence of commissioners and ambassadors in these positions for the last many months?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
No, Honourable Speaker. In fact, if you look here in Trinidad and Tobago, you will see that the United States has not had an ambassador here for, what is it, maybe 2 years now, since the substantive ambassador left, and there is a Charge d'Affaires. Our relations have not been severely or adversely impacted. Work continues, work is ongoing, and we continue to pursue a very vigorous and aggressive foreign policy drive with respect to Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, remember we have a number of questions.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I crave your indulgence. Since the Prime Minister has introduced the United States ambassador, I crave your indulgence to respond to that. But one question, if the House so permits. Is the Prime Minister satisfied with the situation where Trinidad and Tobago does not have, for a protracted period of time, no sitting United States ambassador? And does the Prime Minister regard that as something to be proud of?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, the good relations between our two countries continue. In fact, have been strengthened. Our recent meeting with United States President Barack Obama will be committed to continue strengthening and deepening our relationships in the areas of security, energy, and other common areas of interest for the CARICOM and for Trinidad and Tobago. And you know, Mr. Speaker, I crave your indulgence as well. I saw that someone has written to the President of the United States, or is purporting to have written, to indicate that the President of the United States was scheduled to visit Trinidad and Tobago and that a member of this House has written to say he should not come. Let me make it very clear. There was no proposal for any visit by the President of the United States to Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore a letter telling him not to come here is really, I mean, and it's also sort of, you know, are you interested in Trinidad and Tobago, or are you interested in undermining the country? Yes, but you craved indulgence.
To ask and she's to get an opportunity. Yes. She's not eating up. She's not eating up question time. I'm giving some flexibility. I now recognize the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Please, let us
Speaker, I
have some silence.
crave
Please.
your protection from the member for Chaguanas East, please.
No, but you have my protection.
Thank you.
Please.
With respect to the missions in London and at the United Nations, can the Prime Minister state what monthly or aggregate payments have been made to the last ambassador or high commissioners since they returned to Trinidad and Tobago to conduct the UNC campaign?
No. I don't think. Wait, please.
I apologize, Mr. Speaker. I went beyond the end of the sentence as a matter of reflex.
Yeah, please. The Honourable Prime Minister, ignore the last part, please.
But it's very difficult so to do. It is very difficult so to do, and I crave your indulgence as the Honourable Opposition Leader gets your indulgence. I hope that I will also have your indulgence to say they did not return here to campaign. That's the first point. But secondly, I wonder which of the 12 on that side or the 13 will be campaigning, because they've all been knocked out. All knocked out. The answer to the question, they don't have long in this House. I noticed they tend not to even come to the House.
Yes.
Honourable Speaker, with respect
Mr. Prime Minister, respond, please. Member for the Gomatic notice, you are not on the floor.
So that's the problem. He's worried about somebody campaigning against him. Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker. I think he's scared of the one campaigning in the Gomatic Northeast. I said, Honourable Speaker, I said, they did not...
Please, PM 1 minute. Please. Yeah, please. I know that I know we are heating up for the campaign, right? That is a manifestation of it. But let us return to the questions to the Prime Minister. And I call on the Prime Minister to respond to question 2. Please, thank you.
Question 2, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you.
These persons would have been paid salary and allowances due to them for any leave to which they would have been entitled. I have asked the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to provide the figures. Thus far, I have not obtained those, and therefore, once we receive them, we could ask the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs to provide them to this Honourable Chamber. The payments that would have been made will not be within my knowledge, just of memory. And therefore, I have to get it from Foreign Affairs. Once it is obtained, even within the sitting, we provide it. If not, Minister of Foreign Affairs will provide it in due course.
Opposition?
Will there be an inquiry initiated on request by the Prime Minister into expenditures on legal fees by the Ministry of the Attorney General over the past 4 years?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The answer is no. May I remind this Honourable House that the Attorney General has accounted for these fees, inclusive of a breakdown. He also indicated that 95% of the cases undertaken in which external legal counsel was retained have in fact been won by the state. And further, approximately $2 billion has been recovered for Trinidad and Tobago out of some of the matters that counsel would have been retained.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Given the amount of discrepancies associated with $400 million expenditure on legal fees at the Ministry of the Attorney General, will the fraud squad be called in to investigate?
The Prime Minister.
Honourable Speaker, the allegations levied against these fees have been related to issues of quantum. There have been no allegations of fraud, and so the issue of fraud does not arise, and fraud squad. Honourable Speaker, should the opposition have information otherwise, we'd be happy to learn from them what other information they have. But thus far, in the public domain and within the Office of the Attorney General, there have been no allegations of fraud, and therefore the answer is no, as to calling in the fraud squad.
The Honourable Leader of the
Is the
Opposition.
Prime Minister aware that the published information emanating from the Attorney General's office with respect to these monies have attracted comments from persons and in fact written script indicating that what has been published has not been obtained and earned by the persons in whose name the sums have been stated? It has been said that certain persons have had received certain monies as published from the Office of the Attorney General. Those persons have said they have not received such sums.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Are you aware of that? Of any of that?
The Honourable
And in
Prime
fact, that was when the original answer was tabled in the House. Thereafter, the Honourable Attorney General did clarify those matters with respect to persons who were double billed, as it were, seen to, in the answer, to have double payments. And yes, we were aware. Honourable Speaker, it is our intention for the Honourable Attorney General to lay the corrected reply to the question in this Honourable Chamber. He is out of the country at the moment on government business and will do so on his return.
And will the Prime Minister not accept that the word discrepancy is applicable to these situations?
I upset.
At all. Would the Prime Minister not agree that the word discrepancy is applicable to these situations?
It is obvious that the original answer and the information obtained thereafter were not exactly the same. You may want to use the word discrepancy. Again, the issue of fraud doesn't arise. Those matters have been corrected by the Honourable Attorney General. But if you have allegations of fraud, please bring them. That's what I'm saying. But as far as we have been advised in this matter and told in this matter, and from what the AG has done, the Honourable Attorney General, there have been no allegations of fraud. And even in the public domain, when there was an outcry about the amount of the quantum, as I'm telling you, outcry was about the quantum, but there was no allegation of fraud. If there is otherwise, please bring it to the attention of the AG.
Leader of the Opposition.
I still have one more. Is the Prime Minister satisfied with the explanations given with respect to the expenditure under the various subheads of this particular matter?
At this time, the answer is yes. The answer is yes, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Is the Prime Minister satisfied with the procedures that were followed by the Chagaramas Development Authority to grant leases to persons and companies for lands at Chagaramas?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
The information that has come to me, Honourable Prime Minister, from the CDA and from the Line Minister, and a very comprehensive press statement that was delivered, shows the following: that existing leases were properly renegotiated, that new leases were negotiated at market rates, superior benefits in benefits to the CDA and the taxpayers, and we had in similar leases previously executed. And thirdly, that due care and attention were taken to ensure that the process for granting of leases to investors was done in keeping with the Act that governs the CDA through a transparent process which involved public advertisements. Most risk in such investments are to the account of the investor and not with us. And in that regard, then, I am satisfied, given the report from the Line Minister and from the CDA, yes, that the procedure followed was appropriate. Further, I make the point again, should there be information to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, otherwise, we are prepared to receive that information and to act upon it as may be necessary after the review of same.
Is the Prime Minister aware that in at least one instance, the CDA is engaged in serious litigation where it has sought to lease premises which were occupied by leaseholders who were in possession of that lease?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Asking if I know that there is litigation, if I'm aware there is litigation, yes, with some leaseholder or purported leaseholder. No, I am not aware of litigation. If you know, you can share it with us.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Is the Prime Minister informed by her Line Ministers what's going on in the government?
I think that is where the honourable member wanted to go. There are over 300 state enterprises, and it will not be humanly possible to be told of every piece of litigation that is going on in any one or in all of these. Therefore, if that is a question that had been asked, we would have been able to seek the information and we could have answered the question to the honourable member.
I recognize the Honourable Member for St. Joseph.
Thank you. Could the Honourable Prime Minister state if the long leases, those for 30 years and over, especially that for the hotel, whether those long leases came to the Cabinet for approval?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
So to the best of my memory is no.
Final supplemental.
Final supplemental. Is it now this practice of the government of Trinidad and Tobago to allow the CDA to engage in the issuing of leases, especially substantial ones, like the convention center and the hotel, without the approval of the cabinet?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from the information provided by the line minister and the CDA, they operate according to the Act, and that Act indicates that they have that position to so do.
All right. The Honourable Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is the Prime Minister concerned that the racist views expressed publicly by the former board member of the Chaguanas Development Authority, Mr. Jaishima Leladar Singh, may have prejudiced the views of the entire board and affected their ability to make decisions in a fair and unbiased manner?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
I thank you. I was very concerned, as were so many others, about the statements when I learned of them. I was repelled by them, but action was expeditiously taken by the line minister with regard to the issue raised. That board consists of independent-minded individuals. Indeed, I think the member for Chaguanas West would have been on the board's committee when the persons were recommended for placement on these boards. Huh?
Yes, as your friend.
That board consists of independent-minded individuals who are unlikely to be unduly influenced by any other single member in making collective decisions. And so the connection between the board's decisions and the personal prejudices of a single former member, in my respectful view, seems to be far-fetched.
The Honourable Member for Chaguanas West.
The National Operations Center falls under the purview of the Office of the Prime Minister. Can the Prime Minister state why the staff at the Komuto location have not been paid for the last 2 months?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Honourable Speaker, thank you again. The Office of the Prime Minister does not pay the staff at Komuto, nor the staff at the National Helicopters Services Limited. The Office of the Prime Minister has a contract with the National Helicopter Services Limited for services provided to the National Operations Centre. However, the payment of staff members remains responsibility of the National Helicopter Services Limited. The National Helicopter Services Limited then bills the OPM for services at the end of the month, and no advanced payments are made. Indeed, I think it was only yesterday that some monies were released to pay to the National Helicopter Services Limited.
The Honourable Member for Chaguanas West.
Well, then the next question may help you, Prime Minister. Can the Prime Minister state why the Office of the Prime Minister has not paid the National Helicopter Services Limited for the last 5 months?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Honourable Speaker, I cannot verify at this time. I've sought the information from the Permanent Secretary as to the amount of months that you're saying they have not been paid. You will note that the National Operations Centre was previously under the Ministry of National Security. And the period under discussion, the NOC was transitioning from being under the remit of Minister of National Security to the Office of the Prime Minister. This OPM, in that transitioning period, the Office of the Prime Minister conducted an audit and review of all payments, and that caused some delay in disbursements of payments to the National Helicopter Services. This has now been completed, and payments were made as of yesterday, or releases were made as of yesterday, and will continue thereafter.
The The Honourable Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Prime Minister confirm if her government will accept the recommendations of the last actuarial report on the National Insurance Fund, which recommends that NIS rates and the retirement age of working persons should be increased and changed, since it will affect over 230,000 senior citizens?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Speaker. The last actual report on the National Insurance Fund is currently under review by the Ministry of Finance and the Economy. Once this process is finalized, a report, along with the recommendations of the Ministry of Finance and the Economy, will be forwarded for Cabinet's consideration.
The Honourable Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, according to the last actuarial report on National Insurance Fund, the number of eligible persons for NIS pension payment will increase by over 70,000 new persons. 70,000 new persons. Can the Prime Minister confirm if the government's policy to guarantee pension payments to pensioners will be continued?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Honourable Speaker, the answer to that question is yes. My government remains committed towards advancing payments to our most vulnerable in society. And one such group will be pensioners. And indeed, I think we had the privilege and the honor to increase pensions, what we used to call old age pensions, the grant to senior citizens, not once, but twice since we came into office. And with respect to the NIS payments, the answer is yes, Honourable Member, Chaguanas West.
The Honourable Member for Laventille East Mova.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can the Prime Minister state what action, if any, will be taken on the findings and recommendations of the Total Policing Report on the national shutdown on Monday, March 23rd?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Speaker, we all recall that day, that fateful Monday of March 23rd, when there was gridlock on our nation's roads. We had met with the Commissioner of Police, Acting Commissioner of Police, on the matter, and they had indicated that a report would be available in 2 weeks. We have now received a report on the police action that caused traffic gridlock and inconvenienced tens of thousands of citizens on March 23rd. It is our intention to lay that report today in Parliament this sitting. We immediately responded, Mr. Speaker, to that matter. We asked for swift action and getting the report because of the damage that was caused to national productivity and, of course, on an emotional basis as well. The day of total policing not only affected productivity, it caused untold damage to national revenues and the commercial sector, and we considered such action unacceptable. We acted with dispatch. We got the report. 3 weeks we have been able to get it done. Will be laid by the Minister in due course in this sitting. The government is satisfied the report has been professionally done. We felt it was important to lay the entire document in Parliament so the public would have access to all the pertinent issues. Our government is committed to transparency in all our activities, and this is another example of our commitment to inform the population of all matters of national importance. In terms of the action to be taken, if any, it is clear that any subsequent action must be taken by the police service itself, that is the Commissioner of Police, Acting Commissioner, as well as by the Police Service Commission, the independent body which has jurisdiction related to matters under the police service. We recall that in the last Parliament, under the former administration, we had passed the new police bill. And in that bill, and the constitutional amendment which accompanied it, what happened is that the Police Service Commission was given remit and jurisdiction over matters of discipline and promotions and appointments and disappointments with respect to the executive of the police service, that is the men in khaki, as it were, at the high echelons of the police service. And at the same time, that amendment, which is the law of Trinidad and Tobago, gave to the Commission of Police, remember there were years of saying there was no teeth in a commissioner, gave to the Commission of Police the powers of discipline, appointment, disappointment, promotion relating to the men under the executive level of the police service. So in terms of action, it is not for the government to take action. However, in our National Security Council meeting yesterday, we did discuss the report, and we asked the police representatives there, the acting commissioner, who is holding for Commissioner Stephen Williams, and her deputy who attended that meeting. We asked them to, we indicated them, we will be laying the report today, and we asked them to indicate what areas of action that they will pursue. They did advise that they will be looking at matters going to their internal investigation units, and also looking towards, where necessary, disciplinary action against such officers who may have in any way acted outside of their constitutional legal powers and within the regulations of the police service, the standard orders and regulations governing behavior in the police service. So that is what they've advised, and so we await the action taken, that they have the power, and if it's in the law, they have the jurisdiction and the power to deal with these matters. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Supplemental, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
The honourable member for St. Joseph.
Yes. Honourable Prime Minister, in your capacity as Chairman of the National Security Council, could you tell us approximately what time on Monday, 23rd March, you became aware of the total policing effort on the gridlock, and what actions either yourself as Chairman of National Security Council or the Attorney or the Minister of National Security, what actions were immediately taken to make sure this issue did not get out of hand?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
That matter was brought to my attention very early in the morning, and not just from police operatives, but from citizens throughout the country. Thank God for the technologies, because we were getting this on the phone. The total policing thing was from about 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. I would say maybe about 5 a.m. it was brought to my attention. I contacted the Honourable Minister of National Security, who then liaised with those in the police service, or the top branch of the police service. And after those conversations, the order went out from the executive of the police service to cease and desist. And therefore, yesterday, this is what, again, they advised. What is the lady's name? Yeah, Miss Aline of the Commissioner's office. She was the person in charge on that day, and she said she sent out instructions to divisional commanders, and in addition, the divisional commanders themselves went out into the field, calling upon them to cease and desist, so that by 10 a.m. they were able to lock down and to free the traffic to flow again.
Supplemental, Mr. Speaker.
All this question and then they go on.
Before we ask any further supplemental, we stop at 12 minutes past 2. 30 minutes will be up. So I really wanted to give other members who have questions outstanding the opportunity to raise it. Would you agree?
We have 12.
We have two more questions, I believe, to respond to, and with the leave of the House, the government would like to continue so that the Prime Minister can respond to all the questions raised by members opposite. Then you could run.
Please.
Thank you. Honourable Prime Minister, with regard to the answer just given, would you say that the instructions then issued by the Minister of National Security were in fact followed by the police service? Because it is clear from what happened on that day that this did not take place, and also in regard to his comments that night at the Monday night forum, which story changed the following day. It is clear that the Minister of National Security either was not listened to or was not in control of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
The question is the Honourable Prime Minister satisfied that the instructions given by the Minister of National Security were in fact adhered to by the police service?
Right. The Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, I don't know if the Honourable Minister of National Security can instruct the police.
That's a dangerous
That's a very dangerous thing when a minister has the power, and you think they have the power, and I trust you never get that job, sir.
Yeah.
Minister cannot instruct the police service. The minister had a conversation with the Miss Alain, Acting Commissioner of Police Alain, the Acting Commissioner of Police did what she thought was appropriate within her remit and within her jurisdiction. And I want to make another point. Minister will make the statement, but from the report, it appears that it's just a very small number of officers. It wasn't the entire police service. So let's not blame the entire police service and paint them in a light. It was just a few officers who acted on their own initiative, as the report which we will lay today will disclose. So you'll get the full details of what transpired on that day, what action was taken thereafter, and the recommendations that have been made in the report.
The Honourable Member for Lavender East Mover.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Madam Prime Minister, given the fact that the hierarchy of the police service claimed not to have known about the actions which resulted in the total shutdown of the country, are you confident and comfortable with the level of intelligence that exists in the police service?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
The report will indicate to us in full what transpired, how it transpired, and how it did not transpire, who was aware and not aware. I suggest we await that report, which will be laid on the table in this House in a very short while.
The Honourable Member for Point 410.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Has a contract for gas supply been concluded for the Mitsubishi Corporation DME plant? And if yes, what is the basis for such an agreement, having regard to the ongoing gas shortage, which continues to affect severely, both financially and operationally, the downstream sector?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
A gas supply contract was indeed between NGC and Mitsubishi. That contract has been concluded. The terms of the contract, as in the case with all gas sales contracts, ever signed by the NGC, are subject to confidentiality. And Mr. Speaker, that has been so within your administration and in this administration. I further add that the current situation with regard to natural gas supply in the country is a consequence of a period of underinvestment by the country's major natural gas producers between 2008-2010, which was a result of an unfavorable investment environment which was created under the former administration at that time. Since we took office, we have taken steps to encourage investment in the exploration and production of natural gas. This has resulted in a high level of drilling activity offshore by BP, BG, EOG, and BHP. These projects include the BP Juniper project, the BG's exploration in blocks 5C and 5D, the BHP Billington Angostura Phase 3 project, and the EOG Oilbird project. 3 of these projects, of these 4, will realize new natural gas supplies in the future.
The Honourable Member.
Specific Prime Minister, as to the source of supply of gas for this DME project?
The contract would have been negotiated with the NGC. The NGC is one of the holders of assets within the Atlantic LNG train, together with other companies. So the gas will come from Atlantic LNG, but through the contracts, yeah. No, from the train, from the NGC. But I'm saying, where would the NGC get it? NGC is but one of the partners, sir. In fact, we have seen only in this year that Royal Dutch Shell is going to acquire the shares, or has signed to acquire the shares from BG. Before, they had acquired shares from Repsol, which also gave them a share in the natural gas supply, as would any other of the companies that are involved in that trade. And therefore, NGC has a share. There'll be other shares which we will get the gas from. But it will be the gas of Trinidad and Tobago.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Given, Honourable Prime Minister, given the projects you just mentioned, where gas is expected to come from, is the Prime Minister aware that the supply of gas anticipated from those projects like Oilbird and whatever, that anticipated gas, when it does come on, is expected only to relieve the current shortage? So therefore, the question about the supply of new gas for the new project is still on the table. And I would like to ask the Prime Minister, now that you have confirmed that, yes, now that you have confirmed that the contract has been signed, a gas supply contract, am I correct to say that as of now, the NGC does not have a supply of gas for that plant, and we are in anticipation of new fines.
The Honourable Prime
Yeah,
Minister.
Honourable Speaker, I will not be in a position to say yea or nay to that. What I can do is to get the information from the Minister of Energy. But let us be clear, Mitsubishi is investing a lot of money into this project, and they have signed a contract, and therefore they are satisfied that Trinidad and Tobago will be able to provide the gas, to have the supply of the gas. Should they not have been so satisfied, they would not have entered into the contract, because they are investing, as I say, millions of dollars into this project.
The Honourable Member for Point Forte, yes?
Another supplemental. Has this matter been discussed with the existing downstream plants in the, like Yara and PCS and so on? Has this been discussed with them, and have they been given assurances that their supply would be brought up to scratch, or brought up to give them to the full requirements before gas is supplied to the DME plant?
Honourable Speaker, should that question be filed appropriately, I can obtain the information from the Ministry of Energy and be able to provide it.
The Honourable Member for Point Forte.
Mr. Speaker, so then what I'm asking again, is the less than adequate supply to the existing Point Lisa's plants, is it that the gas is to be redirected to the DME plant and not to these to the existing plants?
Yeah, well, the Prime Minister has responded by saying that if you file a question, she will respond. So let's go to your next question. Number 13, please.
I believe. Is the Prime Minister who doesn't know?
Please go on to question.
Given the response provided during Prime Minister's question time on March 13, 2015, that Petrotrin advised that the state enterprise had no dealings with Mr. Jeff Clark, reports now show that this information appeared to be incorrect. Does the Prime Minister intend to take action?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
First, the question is premised on a fact which may not be a fact. That is, that the state enterprise had no dealings, that Petrotrin had told us that the state enterprise had no dealings with Jeff Clark, but now the member is saying that information has appeared to be incorrect based on some reports. I do not know which report the Honourable Member is referring to, which says this. However, to avoid any doubt regarding the previous answer on Petrotrin and Maresca, let me clarify that Petrotrin has categorically denied that Mr. Jeff Clark is not and has never been an agent of Petrotrin, nor has Petrotrin ever authorized Mr. Clark to act on its behalf for return, recovery, or direction of any of its funds to any destination accounts regarding Petrotrin and Maresca. Earlier this week, Petrotrin submitted a comprehensive report to the Minister of Energy Affairs on this matter. The report has been reviewed by the Ministry of Energy and Energy Affairs, and once that review is completed, appropriate action will be taken in that regard.
The Honourable Member for Point.
Minister, not aware that Petrotrin has put information in the public domain saying that Maresca, who's also known as Maritima, did in fact inform them by letter dated 19th April 2012 that Jeffrey Clark had been appointed as its Trinidad and Tobago contact for that particular project.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Repeated, Mr. Clark, whatever that company may have said, if that company used Mr. Clark as the agent, Petrotrin has denied that Mr. Clark never was at any time being an agent of Petrotrin, nor has Petrotrin ever authorized Mr. Clark to act on his behalf for the return, the recovery, or direction of any of its funds to any destination accounts regarding Petrotrin and Maresca.
That's clear.
Let's go on.
So